Take a slow breath in and let it gently fall away. Wherever you are tonight, resting in bed, lying on a couch, or simply settling into a quiet corner, I invite you to let this moment belong only to you. Not the day, not the responsibilities, not the worries waiting on the other side of sunrise. Just you and this soft, calming space. As you exhale, feel your shoulders melt just a little. Notice how your body responds when you allow it to finally pause. You don't have to force anything. Just breathe and let the breath be enough. The world has asked a lot of you today. Maybe more than you expected. Maybe more than you like to admit. So many people move through life carrying invisible weight, tightness in the chest, knots in the stomach, that restless churn of thoughts that never seems to stop. You're not alone in that. You're human, and you're here now. Giving yourself this gentle moment to unwind. Let your breath settle into a slow, steady rhythm, a small rise, a soft fall, like waves brushing against a quiet shore in the early evening. As you breathe, imagine you're sitting on an old wooden porch, somewhere far from the noise of the day. A small town porch, the kind with a single rocking chair, a warm blanket draped over the side, and a view that opens to a wide stretch of open land. The air is cool tonight, a hint of pine, maybe a trace of wood smoke drifting from a neighbor's fireplace. The kind of air that reminds you it's okay to slow down, that the earth itself knows how to rest. You can hear crickets somewhere in the distance, maybe the soft rustle of leaves dancing in a light breeze. Above you, the sky is wide and deep, painted with moonlight that glows softly across the quiet streets of the town. Nothing here is rushed. Nothing demands your attention. Here, in this small, peaceful place, you can simply be. Let your jaw unclench. Let your hands rest. Let your breath spread gently through your chest, loosening whatever the day tightened. Some people try to silence their thoughts at night, but thoughts aren't enemies. They're just movements of the mind like clouds drifting across the sky. You don't have to chase them. You don't have to fight them. Just let them pass. Let them drift. You can let the day be the day it was. Not perfect. Not ruined. Just finished. Like the last light in a window as evening turns to night. It doesn't argue. It simply changes. Some of you came carrying a long list, and you're still reading it in your head. Someone here may be holding a regret from earlier, like a pebble in the shoe. Small, but it keeps reminding you it's there. I've heard this question many evenings, in rooms just like this, with lamps low and voices soft. The question that doesn't always use words, but it feels like, did I do enough? Or will it be okay? And sometimes, someone here is quietly wishing they could forgive themselves for being tired. If that's you, I'm sitting with you. No judgment, no hurry. We can be kind in small ways. We can be patient with the part of us that tries so hard. We can loosen what doesn't need to be carried into bed. If you notice stress or overthinking tonight, you don't have to fight it. You can treat it like a child who stayed up too late. Not bad, just worn out, needing a softer voice. Let your forehead smooth. Let the space behind your eyes soften. Let your tongue rest in your mouth, like it's done talking for the day. Let your belly be easy, not pulled in, not braced, just allowed. Let your legs feel long and heavy, as if they're sinking into warm sand. You don't need to hold yourself up anymore. If these stories help you rest, you're welcome to subscribe and come back anytime. And if you'd like, Leave a simple comment. 1. If this helped tonight. 2. If it didn't. So I can learn what your evenings need. Now, with the room quiet and your body settling, let me begin the first story. The way a small lamp begins to glow, steady and calm, in the dark. Story 01. It was late in the day, and the air had that soft, golden quiet that comes when people stop rushing. Even for a moment, the Buddha was staying near a town, and folks came and went, bringing their whole lives with them, in their faces, in their shoulders, in the way their hands held tight. A young mother named Kisa Gotami arrived with a child in her arms. She had been walking for hours, not really seeing the road, driven by a love so strong it made her chest ache. Her child had died, and her mind could not accept it. She was like any of us when pain is too big, searching for one more email, one more doctor, one more answer, one more way to undo what already happened. She asked for medicine, not because she was foolish, but because grief can make the heart beg for a loophole. The Buddha didn't scold her. He understood that when the mind is desperate, it cannot hear big truths all at once. He told her to look for a mustard seed from a house that had never known death. So she went, door to door, step after step, asking, and each home had its own story. A grandparent gone, a child buried, a sister lost, a husband missing. Again and again, she met the same quiet fact, that life changes, and it doesn't ask our permission. By the time she returned, her breathing had shifted, not happy, not healed, but softer. The Buddha helped her see what her walking had already shown her, that she was not singled out, and she was not alone. If you're listening tonight with your own kind of loss, maybe it isn't a person, maybe it's a job that ended, a relationship that changed, a dream that didn't work out. Maybe it's the version of you that used to have more energy, more certainty, more time. This story isn't telling you to get over it. It's reminding you that your heart is allowed to be tender and still. You don't have to carry your pain like a private punishment. Life, when we stop asking, why me? We finally have room to breathe. Shared human sorrow can become shared human strength. Place one hand on your chest and one on your belly. On the next few breaths, quietly name what you're carrying. Just one simple phrase, like, this is grief, or this is change, or this is hard. Then add one gentle phrase, and I'm not alone in this. Let your shoulders drop a fraction as you say it. Story 02. There was a stretch of road people avoided because fear had made a home there. Travelers spoke in low voices about a man named Angulimala, who had harmed others, and whose past clung to him like smoke. One day, the Buddha walked that road anyway, not as a dare, not as a performance, but with the steady pace of someone who doesn't abandon living beings. Angulimala saw him and ran after him, full of rage and confusion, carrying the momentum of many wrong turns. And still, the Buddha kept walking, calmly, not speeding up, not panicking. Something about that steadiness interrupted the chase. Angulimala shouted, demanding the Buddha stop. But the Buddha's calm presence made the moment strange, like a loud song suddenly cutting out. In a simple way, the Buddha pointed to what really stops and what doesn't, not with flashy words, but with a kind of clarity that makes you look at yourself without flinching. Angulimala's mind cracked open. The chasing, the grasping, the proving. It all started to feel like running in circles, breathless, never arriving, and in that opening, remorse rose up, not the kind that lashes you, but the kind that finally admits, I can't keep living like this. Later, he became a monk, and even then, people threw stones at him, because consequences don't vanish just because our hearts change. He bore it, learning patience, learning to live in a new direction, one day at a time. Maybe you've had your own version of chasing being perfect, chasing control, chasing approval, chasing a clean inbox, chasing a mistake you wish you could undo. And maybe you've also felt the heavy truth that the faster you run, the more tired you become. Life, you don't have to be the person you were yesterday. A new direction begins the moment you stop feeding the old one. Rest your hands gently on top of the blanket. Imagine setting down one thing you've been chasing today. Just one. Say quietly, not tonight. Then feel your hands become heavier, like they're anchoring you to rest. Story, 3 inches, the monastery. Some evenings were very quiet. You could hear sandals on stone, a bird settling into a tree, a bowl being rinsed. The ordinary sounds of a life kept simple. A woman named Patachara came to the Buddha after losing almost everything. Her story carried layers of heartbreak, the kind that can make a mind feel like it's splitting. When she arrived, people tried to block her, because grief had made her disoriented, unsteady, and raw. But the Buddha allowed her close, not because her pain was neat, but because compassion doesn't require neatness. He helped her return to the present, gently, not with a lecture, with a steady attention that made it safe to breathe again. Over time, as her mind settled, he guided her to see that life has the nature to change, that what we love can't be held still, and that the mind can learn to hold sorrow without becoming sorrow. In the traditional telling, there is a small moment where she notices water flowing away, and it becomes a mirror for how everything moves on, not coldly, just honestly. Her breath steadied, her shoulders softened. She wasn't fixed, but she wasn't drowning either. Maybe you felt like life has piled up on you. A parenting season that leaves you depleted. A relationship tense and sharp around the edges. Money worries that keep knocking at the door of your mind. And you wonder, quietly, how much more you can carry. This story is a reminder that when life becomes too much, the first mercy is to come back to what is right here, right now, one small thing at a time. Life, you can't stop life from changing, but you can stop punishing yourself for it. Stability can be rebuilt, breath by breath. Look for one simple sensation in your body, warmth in your hands, the weight of your legs, the touch of fabric. Stay with it for 10 slow breaths, not counting, just noticing. Each time your mind wanders, return kindly, like guiding a child back to bed. Story 04. One day, a young monk named Sona was practicing with fierce effort. He pushed and pushed, trying to force results, like someone staying up too late, rewriting the same message, trying to make it perfect. His body grew tired, his mind grew tight, and in time, discouragement appeared. He wondered if he was cut out for this path at all. When the Buddha learned of it, he met Sona with gentleness. He didn't praise burnout. He didn't shame struggle. He asked Sona about something he knew well from home life: the tuning of a stringed instrument. If the strings are too tight, the sound is sharp and the string can snap. If the strings are too loose, the sound is dull and it won't play well at all. But when the tension is just right, the music can come through. Sona understood, not as an idea, but as a felt sense. He softened his effort, not giving up, not forcing, just finding a steadier middle, and his mind became more workable, like a knot loosening when you stop yanking. If you're listening tonight and you've been running on grit, this may land in a tender spot. Deadlines, expectations, bills, family needs, that constant feeling that if you relax, something will fall apart. But too much tightness makes even good intentions painful. Life, real progress doesn't require constant strain. The right effort feels steady, not harsh. Gently squeeze your hands into fists for 2 seconds. Then release. Do that 3 times. On each release, let your shoulders drop a little more. Notice the difference between effort and strain in your own body. Story 05. There was a householder named Nakulapita who was aging and often ill. He came to the Buddha with a simple, human worry, that his body was failing him, and he feared what that meant. The Buddha met him with realism and kindness. He didn't pretend bodies don't ache. He didn't promise that life will always feel comfortable. He pointed, instead, to a refuge that isn't dependent on perfect health. He guided Nakulapita to understand that the body gets sick. Yes, but the mind doesn't have to become sick in the same way. A painful body doesn't have to mean a collapsing heart. An unsteady day doesn't have to mean an unsteady identity. Nakulapita left with something gentle but strong, the sense that even inside limitation, there is room, even when the calendar is full of appointments, responsibilities, and things you can't control. There can be a quiet place inside that doesn't get pushed around so easily. Maybe you've felt that lately. Your body tired, your energy lower than you wish, your patience thin, your mind saying, I should be able to handle more than this. This story offers a different kindness. You don't have to be invincible to be okay. Life, you can care for your body without letting fear run your mind. A steady heart is possible, even on an unsteady day. Put one hand on your cheek, like you're comforting yourself. Say softly, this body is doing its best. Then say, my mind can be gentle. Let your face soften under your palm. Story 06. A monk named Megya once had a restless mind. He went to the Buddha and asked to go practice alone in a beautiful grove. The Buddha, seeing his readiness, suggested he wait, but Megya insisted. He went anyway, thinking quiet scenery would automatically bring a quiet mind. Instead, the mind flooded him. Old worries, old desires, old irritation, like emails popping up the moment you sit down to rest. He returned, disappointed, and admitted what happened. The Buddha didn't mock him. He explained, in a grounded way, that a mind needs certain supports before solitude becomes peaceful. Good friendship, simple living, a steady attention to the present, and a way of meeting thoughts without getting dragged behind them like a cart behind a horse. Megya listened, and his tight determination softened into something more mature. He realized that it's not just about finding the perfect place. It's about building the inner conditions for ease. If you've ever tried to finally relax, and then your mind got louder, you're in good company. A quieter room doesn't automatically mean a quieter inner world. But you can learn, gently. Life peace isn't only about where you are. It's about how you relate to what shows up. Choose one sound in your room. A fan. Distant traffic. A clock. Let it be your anchor for 1 minute. When thoughts come, don't wrestle them. Just return to the sound. Again and again. Patiently. Story 07. A monk named Malalankaputta carried big questions. He wanted the Buddha to answer certain abstract puzzles about the universe. He felt stuck, like he couldn't commit to practice unless every uncertainty was resolved. He came to the Buddha, frustrated, pushing for clear answers. The Buddha responded with a story-like analogy, the kind that meets a stressed mind where it lives. He described a person wounded by an arrow who refuses help until he knows every detail about the arrow. Who made it? What wood it's made of? What feathers are on it? Meanwhile, the wound remains. The point wasn't to shame curiosity. It was to highlight what matters most when life is short and the heart is tired. Some questions don't need to be solved tonight. Some mental spirals are like that. Arrow analysis. Endless. And not actually healing you. Maybe you've been living with your own set of if only I knew questions. If only I knew I chose the right career. If only I knew what that person really meant. If only I knew the future was safe. But bedtime isn't the time to run those miles. Life. Not every question deserves your nighttime energy. Relief comes from tending the wound you can touch. On a piece of paper, write one question your mind keeps chewing on. Then underneath, write one action you can actually do tomorrow. Even small. Fold the paper, set it aside, and tell yourself, not now. Story 8 inches, a town where people judged quickly. A man named Sunita lived at the edges of society. He did lowly work, cleaning what others didn't want to see. Many people looked through him as if he wasn't there. One day, the Buddha saw him clearly, not as a role, not as a label, as a human being. Sunita, carrying shame and a lifetime of being dismissed, felt his chest tighten when the Buddha approached. But the Buddha's presence wasn't heavy. It was calm, attentive, and steady. In the preserved accounts, the Buddha welcomed him into the path of practice, not because Sunita was already confident, but because the path is not reserved for the already polished, for someone who has been pushed down by life. That kind of acceptance can feel like fresh air. Sunita's mind changed. He stood taller, not in arrogance, but in dignity. If you've ever felt like you don't measure up, like everyone else has the manual and you missed the meeting, this story has a quiet medicine. You don't have to earn basic worth. You can begin from where you are. Life, you are not your job title, your bank balance, or your worst day. A steady life can begin right here. Place your hand over your heart and gently tap twice, like a soft knock on a door. Say, I'm here. Then say, that's enough for tonight. Let the tapping stop and feel the warmth remain. Story 09. A king named Pasenadi once spoke with the Buddha about love and closeness. Kings had power, but they carried fear too. Fear of loss, fear of betrayal, fear of not being enough. In the traditional telling, the theme turns toward what each person holds most dear. The Buddha guided the king to notice something simple and honest, that each of us protects our own life deeply, and from that, a practical kindness can grow. If you know you love your own well-being, then you can understand that others love their well-being too, not as a theory, as a lived fact. This softens harshness. It loosens the urge to win every argument. It brings a little humility into a tense home conversation or a stressful workplace email thread. The king's mind eased, not because his world became simple, but because his heart became more humane. Maybe you've been dealing with someone difficult lately, a coworker who irritates you, a family member who presses your buttons, or maybe the hardest person has been you, demanding perfection, replaying mistakes, gripping control. This story invites a pause. They want ease like you want ease. You want ease like they want ease. Life. When you remember your own desire to be safe and okay, compassion becomes more natural. Kindness is often just shared humanity. Remembered. Think of one person you've been tense with, without forcing warmth. Just say quietly, "They want to be okay." Then say, "I want to be okay too." Let that be enough. Feel what loosens in your chest as you say it. Story 10. A man named Bahia was burning with urgency. He had a sense that life was slipping fast, and he wanted clarity before it was too late. He sought out the Buddha and asked for guidance right away. The Buddha, in the preserved account, offered something direct and simple, not dressed up. He guided Bahia toward a clean way of experiencing the moment, without layering it with extra stories. In what is seen, just the seen. In what is heard, just the heard. Not turning every sensation into a whole spiral of meaning. Bahia's mind released its grip. Right there. Because he stopped adding so much. His awareness became plain, like a clear window, and in that simplicity, freedom showed itself. Maybe you felt urgency too. Not always dramatic. Sometimes it's a quiet pressure. The sense that you're behind, that you're late, that you should be doing more, figuring more out, controlling more. This story points to a gentler kind of right now. Not frantic, just present. Life peace often comes from subtracting, not adding. The moment is simpler than your thoughts about it. For 1 minute, open your attention to what you can hear. Name 3 sounds softly in your mind. Sound, 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 without labeling what they mean. Then shift to what you can feel. The bed, the blanket, the air on your skin. Let it be plain. Let it be enough. Story 11. Evening settled over the little town of Kesaputta, and the air felt dusty and still. The Buddha was resting nearby, and a group called the Kalamas came to see him. They looked polite, but tired in the eyes. So many teachers had visited them, each insisting their view was the only right one. Their minds felt pulled like a shirt, being tugged from both sides. They admitted they didn't know what to trust anymore. The Buddha didn't demand loyalty, and he didn't scold their doubt. He encouraged them to notice what happens inside them when they follow an idea. If something leads to greed, hostility, and confusion, it doesn't bring peace. If something leads to kindness, clarity, and steadiness, it supports well-being. He pointed them toward direct experience and the results of actions, not rumor, not pressure, not popularity. The Kalamas felt their chests loosen. like a belt unbuckled after a long day. They didn't need to swallow someone else's certainty to live wisely. Maybe you know this feeling. Too many opinions. Too many podcasts. Too many hot takes. Your tired brain trying to pick the right answer at midnight. Trust what makes you more kind, more clear, and less tangled. Think of one choice looming over you. Then ask, does this lead to tightness or to ease? Write one honest sentence, and let that be enough for tonight. Story 12. The Buddha was staying near a grove, and the morning felt cool and clean. A wealthy man named Anathapindika, known for generosity, came with a heavy step. He was sick, and the body that used to carry him so easily now felt fragile. Even a good life can feel shaky when health changes. He worried about leaving his family, his home, his identity as a capable provider. A monk visited with the Buddha's support, offering guidance suited to a householder's heart. They reminded him not to cling to sights, sounds, thoughts, or even the idea of me, not as a cold message, but as a gentle untying. They pointed to a freedom that doesn't depend on possessions staying put. Anathapindika's eyes filled with tears. Not from fear alone. It was relief, like finally putting down a bag you didn't realize you were still holding. He understood that love can remain, without gripping, and that dignity can remain, even when control fades. If money worries keep you awake, this story speaks softly to that place. You can plan and care, and still not let fear run the whole house. What you hold with an open hand hurts less when it changes. Place a hand on your chest. Name one thing you're clinging to. Then whisper, I can care without gripping. Feel your fingers soften. Story 13. A quiet afternoon passed in the monastery. With simple chores and soft footsteps, a young novice named Rahula, the Buddha's own son, was growing up. He wanted to be seen as good, and sometimes that made him sloppy with truth. It's a very human temptation, to bend things to look better. The Buddha didn't shame him in public. He spoke to him with the steady calm of a parent who wants a child to be free. He used a plain image, like a mirror used for reflection. He encouraged Rahula to look at actions before, during, and after doing them. If an action would harm yourself or someone else, pause. If you've already done harm, admit it. Learn, and begin again. Honesty became a safe place, not a punishment. Rahula's mind steadied, like a breath finally moving smoothly. He didn't have to keep performing. He could become trustworthy. From the inside out. Maybe you felt that pressure to look fine at work, at home, online, and the exhausting fear of being found imperfect. Integrity is rest, because you don't have to keep up an act. Tonight, choose one tiny truth to tell yourself, written or whispered. This is what I really feel. Then let your shoulders drop. Story 14. The Buddha was walking with monks on a dusty road between villages. The sun was bright, and the day felt ordinary, like any busy weekday. Some monks had been arguing, each sure they were right. Their voices had that sharp edge that comes from pride and fatigue. The Buddha didn't join the heat. He guided them to notice how conflict spreads, like sparks in dry grass. He emphasized the value of harmony and the cost of stubbornness. Being right can feel good for a moment, and then it poisons the room. He pointed them back to speech that is timely, true, and gentle, and to listening that doesn't plan the next rebuttal. The monks grew quiet. Their breathing slowed, and embarrassment softened into humility. They remembered they were here for peace, not for winning. If you've had tension at home, or a sharp thread in a relationship, you know this. Sometimes the hardest thing is lowering the shield, but it's also the most relieving. Peace is often one person choosing to stop the fight first. Picture one conversation that's been tense, and rehearse one softer first sentence for tomorrow. Then let the rest wait. Story 15. One day, a man came to the Buddha with anger in his mouth. He spoke harshly, trying to land his words like stones. The Buddha stayed steady, not flinching, not striking back. He asked the man to consider a simple point about giving. When someone offers a gift, and the other person doesn't accept it, who holds it? The question hung in the air, quiet and clear. The man felt the heat in his own chest. He began to see how anger returns to the one who carries it. The Buddha's calm wasn't weakness. It was a strength that refused to be dragged into the mud. The man's breathing changed first, then his face, not instantly sweet, but less sharp. He had space to choose something else. If you've dealt with a rude email, a cutting comment, a tense family moment, you get it. You don't have to accept every gift someone tries to hand you. You can let the insult fall to the floor without picking it up. Put your hand on your throat, feel the pulse there, and say, I don't have to carry this. Then exhale and relax your jaw. Story 16. The Buddha was seated with monks when the topic turned to fear of harm. Some were anxious, imagining worst-case scenarios, minds racing ahead. The Buddha offered a difficult but famous training in patience. He described an extreme image, meant to show the mind's capacity not to hate, even if others behave cruelly. He advised not to let the heart become cruel in return, not because harm is okay, but because hatred burns the holder first. He guided them toward a mind that stays compassionate, even under pressure. The monks listened, sobered, like people realizing what anger really costs. Their shoulders lowered, their faces softened. They saw patience as protection, not as surrender. If you're worn down by the world lately, this can feel very real. The news, the demands, the tone people take when they're stressed. It's easy to become sharp just to survive the day, but sharpness cuts you. 2. Guard your heart from becoming what hurt you. Tonight, name 1. Irritation. Then imagine setting it on a shelf until morning. Whisper, not tonight, and let your forehead smooth. Story 17 inches. A hall where lamps flickered softly. A woman named Kema came near. She was known for beauty, and she trusted it like armor. Still, she carried a quiet worry about aging, about losing her place in the world. The Buddha didn't attack her pride. He guided her attention toward change, in a way she could actually feel. In the preserved stories, her confidence shifted as she saw how quickly appearances fade. Not with shame, but with clarity. She realized that clinging to beauty is like trying to hold smoke, and that worth can be deeper than a reflection. Her mind loosened, her breath steadied. She found dignity that didn't depend on being admired. If you've ever felt trapped by needing to look fine, strong, successful, unaging, this is for you. So much pressure rides on image in modern life, but your real life is happening underneath it all. What's most real in you doesn't wrinkle, and doesn't need applause. Relax your face completely. Unclench your tongue. And let your body be off duty. Notice the relief of not performing for 1 minute. Story 18. The Buddha was staying at a monastery where everyone had their routines. A monk named Kuapanthaka struggled with memory and learning. He couldn't hold the teachings the way others could, and shame followed him around. It's the kind of shame many adults know. When you feel behind, or not smart enough. The Buddha didn't label him as a failure. He gave him a simple task: rubbing a clean cloth while staying attentive. As the cloth changed, he noticed it picking up dust. In time, that ordinary change helped his mind understand cleansing and release, not as a clever trick, but as something his hands could teach his heart. His confidence returned. Quietly, his breathing became calmer. He stopped comparing. He became steady in his own way. If you feel worn out by comparison at work, or by being judged, remember this: you don't need the same path as everyone else. You need a path that actually works for you. Small, steady attention can open a door that force can't. Rub your palms together slowly for 30 seconds. Then rest them. Feel the warmth, and let it remind you. Simple is enough. Story 19. There was a dispute between two clans, the Sakyans and the Kolyans. They argued over water for their crops. Voices rising, pride hardening. It was the kind of conflict that starts small and then swallows everything. Families took sides. Old grudges woke up. The feeling of we can't back down took the wheel. The Buddha came to the riverbank and asked them to look closely. Was this water worth more than the lives that would be lost? His question cut through the noise like cool air. People fell quiet, suddenly aware of what they were about to do. The anger didn't look heroic anymore. It looked tired. It looked expensive. And it looked unnecessary. If you've had a fight grow bigger than the original issue, you know this moment. A little pride can cost a lot of peace. Don't trade what's precious for what's petty. Think of one conflict that's been simmering. Then ask, what am I protecting? My pride or my peace? Choose one softening step for tomorrow. Story 20. The Buddha once spoke about balance using a simple street scene. He described an acrobat with a long bamboo pole and an assistant climbing it. At first, you might think safety comes from watching only the other person. But the Buddha pointed to something calmer and more reliable. Each person must keep their own balance with care, and by doing that, they naturally support the other. It's a gentle teaching about responsibility without control. You can care for others without trying to manage every move they make. The assistant stays steady by being mindful of their own body. The acrobat stays steady the same way. Together, they don't fall. If you're carrying everyone lately, family, co-workers, parenting, bills, schedules, this can land softly. You can't do their balance for them, but you can tend your own steadiness. That's not selfish. It's the ground that helps everyone. When you steady yourself, you become safer to lean on. Feel your spine supported by the bed. Then relax the muscles around it. Whisper, my balance first, and let the rest of the world wait until morning. Story 21. The night air around Savatthi was cool, and lamps glowed low in quiet homes. The Buddha was nearby, and a householder named Sigala came out at dawn. Sigala was doing a ritual, bowing to the 6 directions, trying to protect his life. He looked like a man carrying 100 responsibilities. hoping one more task would make him safe. The Buddha asked what he was doing, and Sigala admitted it was his father's instruction. The Buddha didn't insult the father and didn't mock the ritual. He redirected it gently toward how protection really works in daily life. He spoke about the directions as relationships, parents, children, friends, teachers, workers, spiritual guides. He described what care looks like in each one: reliability, fairness, gratitude, honesty, respect, not as a rule book to shame anyone, but as a map to reduce harm and regret. Sigala's mind eased, because the path became practical and human. He didn't need more superstition. He needed steadier conduct. If you've tried to calm anxiety by doing one more thing, you know that loop. Sometimes the real relief is cleaning up relationships, one small promise at a time. It's like putting your shoes neatly at the door, instead of scattering them and worrying later. Security grows from how you live with people, not from frantic rituals in your head. Think of one relationship that's been strained. Choose one simple repair: a message, an apology, a small act of help, and write it down for tomorrow. Now let your body rest, knowing you don't have to fix every direction tonight. Story 22. A dry wind moved through a grove as the Buddha sat with monks in the afternoon. One monk's mind had become tangled in clever arguments and needless debates. He wanted the teachings to be weapons, not medicine. It's the same energy we feel when we're tired and trying to win online, or prove we're right at work. The Buddha offered a simple image of a raft used to cross a river. A raft is held and used with care, because it helps you reach the far shore. But once you cross, you don't drag it on your back everywhere you go. He explained that the teachings are for letting go, not for clinging and showing off, not for building a new identity called the person who's right. The monk's face softened, like someone realizing how heavy his own pride has been. He could stop hauling extra weight. He could use what helps, then set it down, if your mind keeps looping on proving yourself. This story speaks to that fatigue. You don't need to carry every argument into bed. You can set down the raft and lie down. What helps you cross isn't meant to become a burden. Name one mental raft you've been dragging tonight. A debate, a plan, a worry, and imagine placing it gently by the door until morning. Feel your shoulders drop as you let it stay there. Story 23. The Buddha was walking through the countryside when a fierce spirit named Avaka confronted him. The air felt tense, like a room before a big confrontation at work. Avaka demanded answers and tried to intimidate him. The Buddha didn't meet force with force. He stayed calm and responded with what truly supports a human life. In the preserved account, he pointed to faith and confidence, careful conduct, learning, generosity, and wisdom, not as empty promises, but as real protection you can practice. The spirit's aggression cooled, like a fire losing fuel. Avaka's mind shifted from domination to listening. Even a hostile heart can soften when it meets steadiness instead of fear. If you've been surrounded by harsh tone lately, in meetings, in traffic, in family tension, you know how rare calm can feel. Calm isn't passive. It's strength that refuses to spread heat. Sometimes your best move is to keep your own center. The strongest shield is a steady mind and a kind life. Put your hand on your belly and feel it rise and fall naturally. Each time a tense thought appears, relax your jaw and return to that simple movement. Let the room feel safer because you're softer. Story 24. One evening, a monk named Nanda, the Buddha's half-brother, felt restless and pulled by desire. He had entered monastic life, but his mind kept running back to a life of comfort and romance. It's a familiar tug, the mind craving what seems easier, especially when we're tired. The Buddha guided him with patience, not shaming him for being human. In the traditional account, Nanda was helped to see the difference between short-lived pleasure and lasting freedom, not as a scolding, but as a clear comparison that made his own priorities visible. When Nanda stopped feeding fantasy, his attention grew steadier. He became less haunted by what-ifs. He could finally rest inside his own decisions. If you've been battling distraction, scrolling, impulses, the need for something sweet to take the edge off, this story understands you. The mind reaches for relief, but sometimes it grabs what keeps it hungry. Gentle discipline can feel like kindness when it's done with care. It's like turning off a bright screen so your eyes can recover. Not every craving deserves your energy, especially at night. Choose one small desire you can pause until tomorrow, and quietly label it wanting. Then return your attention to the weight of your body in bed. Let wanting be there, without letting it drive. Story 25. The Buddha was staying near a park when a man named Upali came to see him. Upali was a respected follower of another teacher, confident and well-trained in debate. He arrived ready to argue, like someone coming into a meeting with slides and sharp elbows. The Buddha listened carefully, without trying to score points. He responded in a way that emphasized fairness, truthfulness, and the results of actions. Upali's confidence began to change shape, from pride into clarity. In the preserved telling, Upali chose to follow the Buddha's guidance, and the Buddha did something very striking and kind. He advised Upali to continue supporting his former teacher's community as before. No hatred, no triumph, no team sports. Upali felt the ground shift under him. In a good way. He saw that real wisdom doesn't need to humiliate anyone. If you've been caught in rivalry, workplace competition, family politics, even quiet jealousy, this is a soft antidote. You can choose what's true without turning it into a war, like closing a door gently, not slamming it. You can change your mind without making enemies. Think of one person you disagree with, and whisper a simple wish for them. May you be well. Then let your chest loosen a little. Let goodness be bigger than winning. Story 26. A cold season came, and the Buddha was with monks who were living simply. One monk was constantly comparing, thinking others had it easier, more respect, better progress. Comparison made his mind restless. Like an inbox you refresh again and again. The Buddha pointed to a quiet truth about contentment. When the mind keeps reaching for more, it never lands. He guided the monks toward appreciating enough. Enough food, enough shelter, enough quiet. Not as settling for less in a sad way, but as freeing the heart from desperate grabbing. The monk noticed the tightness of envy, how it stole peace without giving anything back. His breath grew easier when he stopped measuring himself. If you're exhausted by other people's highlight reels, or by feeling behind, this story holds you gently. Your life is not a race you can win by hating your own pace. Contentment is not laziness. It's choosing not to be bullied by endless wanting. Enough is a doorway to rest. Look around your room with half-closed eyes and name 3 simple enough things. Enough blanket, enough air, enough time to lie down. Let that be your safe place for 1 minute. Story 27. The Buddha was once approached by a grieving father named Mahanama. Heavy with worry about loved ones, he feared what happens when people die and what it means to live well now. The Buddha guided him toward the steadiness of a well-trained mind. He used careful images of a mind that has practiced, that doesn't sink into confusion so easily, not as a guarantee against pain, but as a support in hard seasons. The father's fear softened, because he felt he had something he could actually do. He could live with care, generosity, and clarity. Starting today, he didn't need to solve every mystery at once. He needed to build a life that leaves less regret. If you're lying awake thinking about the future, aging parents, kids growing, time moving fast, this story understands that lump in the throat. Worry wants to control life by thinking harder, but steadiness grows from living well in small ways. Like tending a lamp so it doesn't go out in the wind. You can't freeze time, but you can strengthen your heart. Write 1 sentence tomorrow. I will do 1 good thing. Make it small. A kind message. A fair choice. A moment of patience. Then let tomorrow wait. Story 28. One day, the Buddha spoke with monks about how anger can hijack the mind. They had seen people lash out, then regret it later, like sending a message you wish you could unsend. The Buddha offered a steady teaching on meeting harsh speech with restraint. He pointed out how anger burns first in the one who holds it. He described ways to train the mind toward patience, like protecting something valuable, not because others are always right, but because your peace matters. The monks listened with quiet faces, recognizing their own heat. They could feel how anger tightens the throat and hardens the eyes, and they could also feel the relief of not feeding it. If you've been snapping more than you want to, under deadlines and fatigue, you're not alone. Pressure makes sparks. Training gives you a pause before the spark becomes a fire, like placing a lid on a pot before it boils over. You can be firm without being cruel, and quiet without being weak. Press your tongue gently to the roof of your mouth for 3 seconds. Then release as you release. Relax your jaw and let your shoulders drop. Feel what it's like to choose calm. Story 29. A man named Subhadra came late. Near the end of the Buddha's life, the night was deep, and the camp was quiet, as if the world was holding its breath. Subhadra had questions, urgent and sincere, and he asked to speak. At first, others tried to block him, protecting the Buddha's rest. But the Buddha allowed him to come, because even at the end, compassion doesn't close its door. Subhadra asked about the path, about what leads to true peace. The Buddha guided him toward a simple standard, a way to recognize a genuine path by what it produces, a life of ethical conduct, a mind cultivated, a heart released from clinging. Subhadra's urgency softened into clarity. He didn't get entertainment. He got direction. If you felt urgency lately, the sense you have to fix your whole life tonight, this story is a gentle hand on your shoulder. You can begin with what's real and doable. 1 step, then the next. It's never too late to turn toward peace, and never necessary to do it all at once. Choose 1 small commitment for the next day. 1 kind action. 1 honest action. one patient action, and write it down. Then let your body be done for tonight. Story 30 inches, a quiet grove. The Buddha met a man named Sakaka who was proud of debate. Sakaka liked to corner people with sharp questions. Like a verbal trap, he approached the Buddha, expecting a contest. The Buddha didn't posture. He asked simple, direct questions about control. Can you command the body not to age, not to get sick, not to change? Can you command feelings to stay pleasant, thoughts to obey, moods to behave? Sakaka began to feel the limits of control. Right there in his own experience, his pride wobbled. And then something more honest appeared. He could see that clinging to my body, my mind, my control creates strain, not because we shouldn't care for life, but because control is never complete. His tone softened, like a fist slowly opening. If you've been trying to control everything, your schedule, your partner, your finances, your future, you know that nighttime tension. Control can look responsible, but it can feel like choking. There's relief in admitting what you can't command. When you release impossible control, you gain real steadiness. Let your hands rest open on the blanket. Palms up. Say quietly, some things can't be controlled. Then add, I can choose my next kind step. Feel the difference between surrender and steadiness. As you drift. Story 31. The Buddha was sitting in a quiet hall, and the monks were gathered close. A monk raised a question that sounded simple, but carried a lot of fear underneath. He worried about results of past actions, and felt trapped by what he'd done before. It's the same feeling as staring at a mistake at work and thinking, my future is ruined. The Buddha used a clear image about salt and water. A handful of salt in a cup makes the cup undrinkable, but the same salt in a wide river doesn't ruin the river. He explained that a narrow, cramped mind makes pain feel overwhelming. A larger mind, trained in goodness, can hold difficulty without collapsing, not because consequences vanish, but because the heart has more space. The monk's breathing slowed as he understood the direction. He could enlarge his life with kindness, honesty, and steady practice. He didn't have to stay small and bitter. If you've been carrying guilt or replaying regrets at night, this story holds you gently. You can't edit the past, but you can widen the heart that meets it. A bigger heart makes heavy things feel lighter. Name one good thing you did today, even tiny. Then another. Let your chest feel a little wider with each one. Now let the day rest. Like a river moving on. Story 32. It was a warm day, and a man came to the Buddha complaining about his troubles. He said his mind wouldn't stop, and life felt like a constant push and pull. He wanted answers to everything, quickly, like a stressed person demanding certainty. The Buddha didn't flood him with philosophy. He told a brief story about a man struck by an arrow. The wounded man refused treatment unless he knew every detail about the arrow and the shooter. But the wound didn't wait for the answers. The Buddha pointed to what matters first. The pain you can touch, right now, and the steps that reduce it, right now. The man's face softened with a kind of embarrassed relief. He realized his questions were sometimes a way to avoid the simple work of healing. He didn't need to solve the whole universe to steady his next breath. If your mind keeps spinning at bedtime, hunting for the perfect explanation, you're not alone. Some questions are endless, and they steal your rest. Tonight, You can choose what helps. Treat the wound you have, not the mystery you can't finish. Write one worry down. Then write one small, helpful action for tomorrow. Close the notebook like a door closing softly. Let your body stop searching tonight. Story: 33 inches a small grove. The Buddha held up a few leaves in his hand. The ground around him was covered with many more leaves. He asked the monks to notice the difference. There is so much a mind could try to know, like 1,000 tabs open at once, but only some knowledge actually frees the heart. He compared the leaves in his hand to the teachings that lead to release, and the leaves on the ground to everything else people can get lost in. The monks felt a quiet clarity settle over them. They didn't need to chase every idea. They needed to focus on what reduces greed, anger, and confusion. It was like someone finally cleaning the kitchen counter instead of reorganizing every drawer. Simple, direct, relieving. If you feel overloaded by information, decisions, and advice, this is for you. Not everything deserves your attention. Your peace is worth protecting. Choose the few things that truly help, and let the rest stay on the ground. Pick one helpful focus for tomorrow. Patience, honesty, or kindness. Whisper it once. Then let your mind go quiet. Feel how light it is to not carry every leaf. Story 34. A man named Anuruddha and two friends were living together in the forest. The Buddha came to visit them, and the place felt calm and orderly. He asked how they lived without friction, because most people, even good people, get irritated when sharing space. They explained they tried to live with care for each other. One would think, let me do what helps them. And they kept their speech gentle. The Buddha approved of this harmony and encouraged it. He showed how shared life becomes easier when the ego isn't always fighting for the front seat. The forest air felt even quieter after that, like dust settling. If you're exhausted by tension at home, or the feeling of walking on eggshells, this story offers a softer way. You don't need to win every moment. You can choose small acts that lower heat, like putting your cup in the sink without being asked, like listening without preparing your defense. Harmony can be built, tiny piece by tiny piece. A peaceful home is made from small, consistent kindness. Think of one small help you can do tomorrow for someone you live with. Decide it now. Then let your body rest. Let the night be your practice in gentleness. Story 35. One day, a man brought the Buddha a question about fear of death. He wanted something solid, something that wouldn't disappear. The Buddha spoke of how everything that is born changes, not as doom, but as a steady fact, like seasons turning. He guided the man to see how clinging increases fear. When we demand that life stay fixed, we suffer twice, from change and from resistance. The man listened, and his face grew quieter. He wasn't being told to stop loving. He was being shown how to love without squeezing the life out of it. If you've been afraid of losing something, health, money, youth, time, this story knows that tight feeling. Fear often comes from gripping the wheel too hard. You can still care and still loosen, like holding a bird gently, not crushing it. The man left with a softer mind, more willing to meet life as it is. When you stop demanding that life stay the same, your heart can finally breathe. Let your hands rest open, palms up. Whisper, things change. Then whisper, and I can meet that gently. Feel the grip in your shoulders ease. Let the night move like a calm season. Story 36. A hungry ghost story was told in the Buddha's circle, and it carried a human warning. A monk asked why some lives seem trapped in endless wanting. The Buddha described the painful feeling of craving that never says enough. It's like eating salty food and getting thirstier with every bite. He wasn't trying to scare anyone. He was showing what grasping does to the mind. Here and now, when you cling to praise, comfort, status, or pleasure, the wanting grows. When you practice generosity and restraint, the wanting quiets. The monk recognized his own habits in that teaching, not as shame, but as clarity. If you're lying in bed still reaching for one more scroll, one more snack, one more thought that will solve it all, you understand. The mind can become a thirsty cup, but thirst can be soothed by stopping the pouring of salt. Even a small pause changes everything. The more you feed endless wanting, the hungrier it gets. Choose one small no tonight. No extra scrolling. No extra mental replay. Place your phone face down and feel your hands become empty. Let emptiness feel like relief, not lack. Story 37. A group of monks were talking about miracles, and some sounded excited. They wanted impressive signs, like people craving a shortcut. The Buddha guided them towards something more grounded. He described different kinds of marvels and placed the highest value on teaching that transforms the mind. Not flashy power, not showing off, but helping a person become less greedy, less hateful, less confused, because that change saves a life in a quiet way. The monks grew thoughtful, like someone remembering what matters. If you've been seeking a big breakthrough, a dramatic shift, an overnight fix, you're not alone. But real change often looks plain. It looks like apologizing, like resting when you're tired, like not sending the angry message, like keeping one promise to yourself. The deepest miracle is a mind that becomes kinder and freer. Choose one small kind act for tomorrow and rehearse it in your mind once. Then let the rehearsal fade and let sleep come. Let plain goodness be enough. Story 38. Late one afternoon, the Buddha spoke to monks about how we carry our opinions. A monk had become rigid, clinging to his view like a shield. It made him prickly, quick to argue, slow to listen. The Buddha compared clinging to views to being caught in a thicket, tangled and scratched. You try to push through, and you only get more stuck. He encouraged a softer approach, seeing views as tools, not as identity. When a tool helps, you use it. When it harms, you set it down. The monk felt the relief of not having to be the right one all the time. If you've been clenched around a viewpoint, politics, parenting, money, relationships, you know how tiring it is. It's like holding a heavy box and refusing to put it down because you're proud you can carry it. But your arms are shaking, and your heart is tired. The Buddha's guidance made space for humility and peace. When you loosen your grip on being right, you gain room to rest. Think of one opinion you've been gripping. Say, I might not have the whole picture. Let that sentence soften your jaw. Then let the mind be quiet. Story 39. One evening, a grieving woman named Visakha came to the Buddha after a loss in her family. Her heart was heavy, and her questions came from love. She asked how to bear this change without breaking. The Buddha guided her toward the nature of life's turning, and the limits of what we can hold. He didn't deny her love. He helped her see that love and loss walk close together, and that wise love doesn't demand permanence. Visakha's mind didn't become numb. It became steadier. Her tears were still tears, but they weren't panic anymore. If you're carrying family worry tonight, kids, parents, marriage stress, money stress, the ache of not being able to protect everyone, this story understands you can care deeply and still accept you can't control every outcome. Acceptance isn't cold. It's the hand that stops shaking. When you stop fighting what can't be held, you have more strength to love. Place your palm on your heart and say, I love them. Then say, I can't control everything. Let both be true. And let your shoulders soften. Rest with that honest tenderness. Story 40. A monk once came to the Buddha, admitting his mind felt scattered. He said thoughts hit him from all sides, like birds darting in a market. The Buddha guided him to train attention in a steady way. Without forcing, he used an image of a skilled gatekeeper at a city gate. The gatekeeper doesn't fight every traveler. He simply notices what comes in and what goes out. In the same way, the monk could notice what his senses were taking in, not to become stiff, but to become clear. With time, his mind stopped being yanked around by every sound and thought. He could choose what to feed. If your nights are full of mental noise from the day, meetings, bills, family needs, unfinished tasks, this is for you. You don't have to wrestle every thought. You can become a gentle gatekeeper. Notice and let pass. The monk's breath steadied as the training became simple. You don't need to stop thoughts. You just need to stop following every one. For 1 minute. Silently label whatever appears. Hearing, thinking, feeling, and let it move on. Keep your body heavy and safe in bed. Then allow the gate to close for the night. Story 41. The Buddha was staying near a quiet grove, and the air felt cool on the skin. A monk named Girimananda was sick, weak, and worn down. His mind kept tightening around fear, the way it can at night, when the body feels fragile. Ananda went to the Buddha and asked for help. The Buddha gave him a set of simple reflections to carry back. Reflections on change, on not gripping, on how the body is built from shifting parts, not to scare the monk, but to steady him. Ananda returned and recited them by the bedside. Girimananda listened, and his breath began to smooth out. His face softened, like someone hearing, "You're not failing. This is just life." The pain didn't magically vanish, but the panic loosened. He could meet the moment without clenching so hard. If you're tired tonight, body tired, mind tired, this story understands. Sometimes the best medicine is a calmer relationship with what's already here. When you stop fighting reality, your strength returns in quiet ways. Put a hand on your belly and whisper, "This too changes." Then whisper, "I can meet it gently." Let your shoulders drop, as if you're letting the bed carry you. Story 42. One afternoon, the Buddha spoke to monks in a calm, steady voice. He talked about pain, the kind that visits every human life, and he described how the mind often adds a second layer on top, like getting hit once, and then hitting yourself again with fear and anger. The first arrow is the body's pain, or life's hard moment. The second arrow is the story, This shouldn't be happening, and I can't handle it. He wasn't blaming anyone for reacting. He was showing a doorway out. When pain comes, you can feel it plainly, without stacking extra suffering on it. The monks listened, and their faces grew quieter, because they recognized their own habit of adding more pressure. If you've been lying awake, replaying a problem, this is for you. The event may be real, but the extra whipping doesn't heal it. You can set down the second arrow tonight. Pain may visit, but you don't have to become its prison guard. Notice one discomfort in the body, and name it softly. Pressure or ache. Then add, and I don't need to argue with it. Let your breath keep moving, like a steady friend beside you. Story 43. The Buddha and the monks once saw a tortoise near the roadside. A hungry animal circled it, looking for a way in. The tortoise pulled its head and limbs safely inside its shell, and the animal, finding nothing to grab, wandered away. The Buddha used that simple scene as a teaching. He spoke about the senses: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind. When you leave them unguarded, the world tugs you around all day. Screens, noise, praise, criticism, cravings, worries. But when you know how to pull in, you become protected, not shut down, not numb, just steady. The monks understood, because they knew what it's like to get dragged. If you feel overstimulated from work, messages, and endless input, this story understands. Your mind deserves a shell at night, a safe boundary, so you can recover. Peace grows when you stop letting everything grab you. Close your eyes and imagine pulling your attention gently inward. Feel the edges of your body, like a quiet boundary. Then rest inside it for 1 minute, without chasing any thought. Story 44. A monk named Aritatha once held a stubborn view that caused trouble. He insisted that certain desires weren't really a problem. Other monks tried to reason with him, but he wouldn't bend. So they brought the matter to the Buddha. The Buddha listened carefully, without heat. Then he used a clear image about grabbing a snake. If you seize a snake the wrong way, it turns and bites you. In the same way, if you grasp the teaching wrongly, it harms you. Not because the teaching is harsh, but because your grip is confused. The monk's pride cooled in the face of that clarity. He could see how being right was keeping him stuck. If you've been clinging to an excuse, or a habit you defend when you're tired, this story speaks gently. Sometimes we protect what's hurting us, and we call it freedom. The problem isn't life's tools. It's how tightly and blindly we grab them. Ask yourself, what am I defending that costs me peace? Name one thing, very softly, and imagine loosening your hold by 10%. Let that small loosening be enough for tonight. Story 45 inches. One traditional account. Devadatta tried to cause harm and chaos. He even sent a fierce elephant, Naragiri, charging down the street. People scattered, terrified, hearts pounding. But the Buddha stood still, calm as a deep lake. He didn't meet violence with violence. He met it with a steady heart, filled with goodwill. As the elephant reached him, it slowed. Its rage cooled, like a fire running out of fuel. It lowered itself, no longer dangerous, no longer driven. The crowd's breath returned, one by one. The moment became a lesson without a lecture. If life has felt like a charging elephant lately, deadlines, conflict, pressure, this is for you. Your calm won't fix everything, but it changes what you add to the moment. It can stop the stampede inside your chest. A steady heart can soften what force cannot. Press your palms together gently at your chest and feel the warmth. On the next exhale, relax your shoulders and whisper, steady. Let steady be your shelter as you drift. Story 46. The Buddha once spoke with an elderly couple, Nakulapita and Nakulamata. They loved each other, and they also worried about aging, about illness, about being separated by death. The Buddha met their love with respect. He spoke of living with trust, kindness, and shared care, of tending the relationship in this life, day by day, and of not clinging so hard that love turns into fear. The couple felt comforted, not with fantasy, but with a grounded path. They could choose how to live tonight and tomorrow. If you carry relationship tension in bed, this story understands. Sometimes love feels heavy when we try to control outcomes, but love feels lighter when it becomes practice, not possession, like holding hands without squeezing. The best security in love is steady kindness, not tight control. Think of one small act of care you can offer tomorrow. A gentle word, a fair tone, a helpful task. Picture it once, warmly. Then let your body rest. Knowing love can be simple. Story 47. One day, King Pasenadi came to the Buddha looking uncomfortable and heavy. He had been eating too much, and his body felt sluggish. Even kings can fall into stress eating and distraction. The Buddha didn't shame him. He encouraged moderation, a mindful relationship with food, a reminder to stop before fullness turns into pain. The king took it seriously, and over time he changed, not through self-hate, but through steady attention. His breathing improved, his sleep improved, his energy returned. If you've been coping with exhaustion by reaching for just one more, this story is gentle with you. The nervous system wants comfort, but comfort can also come from restraint that feels like care, like turning down the volume instead of blasting it. Taking less can feel like relief, not deprivation. Tonight, place a hand on your belly and say, enough is kind. Feel what happens when your body hears permission. Let that permission follow you into sleep. Story 48. The Buddha once asked King Pasenadi to imagine something startling. He said, picture 4 great mountains moving in from every direction. They crush everything in their path, and no one can stop them. The king felt the weight of that image immediately. The Buddha pointed gently to what the mountains represent: aging, illness, death, and the changes we cannot negotiate, not to frighten, but to wake up a wiser kind of living. When you know life moves, you choose your actions more carefully, you hold people more kindly, you waste less time on petty fights. The king's mind grew quiet, like a room finally dimming. If you felt time moving fast, kids growing, parents aging, money uncertainty, this story understands. You don't need to panic. You just need to live with care. When you remember what's certain, you stop wasting your heart. Whisper one name of someone you love. Then whisper, may I be kind while we have time. Let that kindness be your anchor tonight. Story 49 inches, a well-known teaching story. The Buddha spoke to people who were busy and distracted. He described a wealthy man whose house caught fire. The man's children were inside, playing, not understanding the danger. He called to them, but they didn't come out. So he used skillful means, offering something they could recognize and respond to. Only then did they run to safety. The teaching wasn't about tricks. It was about compassion meeting people where they are, and about urgency without harshness. If your life feels like a burning house sometimes, too many tasks, too much pressure, this story understands. Panic often fails to help, but wise urgency can guide you gently, like a steady hand on the shoulder, not a shove. Real care speaks in a way the tired heart can actually hear. Choose one small safety step for tomorrow, one boundary, one rest break, one honest conversation. Write it down, then set it aside like a candle placed safely on a table. Let tonight be quiet, not on fire. Story 50 inches, another preserved parable. The Buddha told of a son who ran away from home. He wandered for years, poor and ashamed, forgetting his own worth. One day he returned, not recognizing his father. Now, wealthy and stable, the father recognized his son at once, but he didn't grab him and overwhelm him. He approached slowly, with patience, offering simple work and steady support. Over time, the son's fear eased. He grew confident enough to come closer, and finally, he could accept the truth that he belonged, that he was loved. If you felt far from your own life lately, like you've lost yourself in work, regret, or exhaustion, this story holds you gently. You don't have to snap back to perfect. You can return in small steps. A little honesty, a little rest, a little self-respect. Coming home to yourself is allowed, and it can be slow. Put your hand on your chest and whisper, "I'm allowed to return." Then whisper, "One small step is enough," and let your eyes grow heavy. Story 51. The Buddha was staying at Jetavana, and the evening air was cool and still. A monk named Vakali was very sick, and his body felt heavy and unreliable. He also carried a quiet sadness, because he loved looking at the Buddha's presence. Now he feared he would lose even that comfort. The Buddha came to him, not rushing, not making it dramatic. He reminded Vakali that the real refuge isn't a sight you can lose. It's the understanding that steadies the heart. A body changes, and even beloved moments pass, but a clear mind can meet change without falling apart. Vakali's breathing eased, like a tight belt being loosened. He stopped grasping for one more perfect moment. He could rest inside something deeper than appearance. If you're lying awake, clinging to how things used to be, this story knows that ache. Sometimes we grab at comfort so hard it turns into fear. Tonight you can let comfort be soft, not desperate. What's truly steady in you doesn't depend on the body staying perfect. Place a hand on your chest and whisper, "I can't hold everything." Then whisper, "But I can be present." And let your eyes grow heavy. Story 52. A gentle morning came, and monks were gathering for alms in the city. A man named Buddha, very ill and poor, sat by the roadside. People avoided him, as if discomfort could be contagious. But he listened when the Buddha taught nearby. His mind was tired, but his attention was sharp, like someone finally hearing a kind voice. The Buddha spoke in a gradual way, starting with generosity and simple goodness. Then he pointed to the stress that comes from gripping and wanting more and more. And he showed the relief of letting go. Little by little, Buddha's face softened, not because life became easy, because his heart stopped feeling cursed and alone. He felt dignity return, quietly, like warmth coming back to cold hands. If you felt unseen lately, at work, in family, even in your own home, this story is for you. Pain can make you feel like you don't matter, but a steady gaze can bring you back to yourself. Being seen with kindness can change a whole inner world. Rest one palm over your heart and say, I'm here. Then say, I matter. And let your shoulders drop a little. Story 53. A clear night settled over the monastery, and the trees barely moved. A monk named Badia lived simply, and people noticed his calm. Sometimes, alone in the forest, he would quietly say, "What bliss!" Other monks misunderstood, thinking he missed his old life as a royal leader. So they asked the Buddha about it. The Buddha explained that Badia's ease came from freedom, not luxury. He used to live surrounded by guards, worry, and constant threat. Now he slept without fear, without needing to control everyone. His mind didn't have to keep scanning for danger. That's why he called it bliss, the bliss of less pressure. If you've been living like you always have to be on, this story understands. Always managing, always anticipating, always bracing. Sometimes the deepest relief is simple safety and enough. Not more stuff, just less clenching. Peace is often the absence of fear, not the presence of more. Let your room feel like a safe shelter for 1 minute. Notice 3 things that mean safe: a locked door, a blanket, a quiet corner, and let your body believe it. Story 54. The Buddha was in a town where a man had lost his beloved child. The father's grief was raw, and his mind kept searching for a way out. He came to the Buddha with a question that sounded like a protest. Why would this happen? If love is real, the Buddha didn't dismiss his love. He pointed gently to a hard truth about closeness. When we hold someone dear, we also become vulnerable to change. Love brings sweetness, and it also brings the risk of loss. Not as punishment, just as the nature of life. The father's chest loosened, because the grief stopped feeling personal and unfair. It was still painful, but it wasn't lonely. He could cry without arguing with reality every second. If you've been grieving a person, a relationship, a plan, this story sits beside you. You don't have to turn love into bitterness to survive. You can let love remain, even when life changes. Love and loss travel together. But love can stay gentle. Whisper one name you care about, or one thing you cared about. Then whisper, "Thank you," and let your breath move naturally in the dark. Story 55 inches, a quiet hall. The Buddha spoke to monks about runaway thoughts. Some said their minds kept replaying the same scenes. Like a stuck song, they felt worn out and a little ashamed. The Buddha offered practical ways to shift the mind's direction. Sometimes you replace an unhelpful thought with a helpful one. Sometimes you look at the downside of the obsession that's pulling you. Sometimes you turn attention to the body and the present moment. Sometimes you let the thought fade by not feeding it. And sometimes you use steady will, like gently straightening a crooked branch. The monks felt relieved, because it wasn't mystical. It was training, like learning to sleep better by changing habits. If your mind loops on work pressure, money worries, or a sharp conversation, this story understands. You're not broken. You're just overfed with the same thought. Tonight, you can practice a small redirect without fighting yourself. You don't have to believe every thought that repeats. Choose one repeating thought and label it. Replaying. Then name one calmer thought. Right now, I'm safe in bed. And rest your attention on the blanket for a minute. Story 56. The Buddha was staying near a river, and some monks were restless. They kept talking about comforts and complaints, and it stirred more wanting. The Buddha spoke about a kind of happiness that doesn't depend on getting your way. He guided them toward contentment, with simple needs met. Food, that's enough. Shelter, that's enough. Companionship that's kind. He showed how endless wanting makes the mind feel poor. Even when life is fine, the monks grew quiet, recognizing their own habit of not enough. It was like realizing you've been tightening your own shoelaces until your feet hurt. If you've been comparing yourself to others, salary, status, lifestyle, this story is for you. Comparison steals rest right when you need it most. Contentment isn't giving up on goals. It's refusing to be bullied by constant craving. Enough is not a number. It's a nervous system that can unclench. Look around your room and name 3 enough things. Enough pillow. Enough air. Enough time to lie down. Let enough be your lullaby for 1 minute. Story 57. One day, the Buddha found a monk sick and left alone. Lying in discomfort, the place was quiet, but not in a peaceful way. It was the quiet of neglect. The Buddha asked the monks why the man wasn't being cared for. They said he wasn't useful, or didn't have friends. The Buddha corrected them firmly. With compassion underneath, he showed that caring for the ill is part of the path, not as charity to feel good, as responsibility, as kindness, as community. The monks helped clean the monk, and the mood in the monastery changed. You could feel the warmth return, like a lamp being lit. If you feel alone with your burdens, this story understands. We all need care sometimes, and we all can give it sometimes. Even small care changes a whole inner night. Kindness is not extra. It's essential. Think of one person who might need a small check-in. Write their name down for tomorrow. Then place your hand on your heart and whisper, I deserve care too. Story 58. The Buddha was approached by a man who felt haunted by harsh words. He had been criticized in public, and the shame kept replaying in his mind. It followed him like a shadow into bedtime. The Buddha spoke about how praise and blame blow through life like wind. When you chase praise, you become anxious. When you fear blame, you become trapped. He encouraged steadiness that doesn't rise and fall with every opinion. Not arrogance, just balance. The man felt relief, like stepping indoors during a storm. He didn't have to keep auditioning for approval. If you're exhausted from people-pleasing or fearing a boss's mood, this story is for you. You can still do good work without tying your worth to applause. You can learn from feedback without swallowing shame. Let praise and blame pass through, and keep your heart steady. Imagine a cool breeze moving across your face, carrying away one harsh comment. Whisper, this is wind. Then feel the bed under you. Solid and real. Story 59. A thoughtful man came to the Buddha with a question about self-control. He felt ashamed that his impulses kept winning. food, anger, desire, spending. He said, "Why can't I just command myself?" The Buddha guided him to see that the mind is trained, not forced. You don't yell at a garden and demand it bloom. You water it. You pull weeds. You protect it from harsh weather. In the same way, you create conditions for steadiness, good friends, clean habits, wise attention, rest when needed. The man's face softened because the path became kinder. If you've been trying to bully yourself into improvement, this story understands. Bullying rarely brings peace. Steady care does. Change grows better with patience than with punishment. Choose one habit you're working on and name one watering action for tomorrow. Then whisper, "I can be patient," and let your body sink into the mattress. Story 60. On a calm day, the Buddha spoke to monks about kindness for oneself. Some practiced hard, but carried self-hate underneath, like a hidden stone in the shoe. They thought harshness would make them stronger. The Buddha guided them toward goodwill, a friendly mind that doesn't abandon itself. A mind can be disciplined and still be gentle. A mind can correct itself without humiliation. He showed how self-directed hostility keeps the heart tight and restless, and how a kinder inner tone makes practice sustainable. The monks felt something uncoil inside, like a fist slowly opening. If you've been tired of your own inner critic, this story sits close to you. You can be responsible without being cruel to yourself. You can improve without nightly punishment. A gentle mind rests more easily and learns more deeply. Place a hand on your cheek and say, "I'm doing my best today." Then add, "I can try again tomorrow," and let your eyes close like curtains. Story 61. The Buddha was staying near a grove, and the afternoon light was soft. A group of monks were talking about how hard it is to control attention. They said the mind runs off like a startled animal. The Buddha offered a steady image, simple and practical. A skilled trainer doesn't hate the animal for wandering. He guides it back, again and again, with patience. In the same way, you train the mind gently, not with clenched teeth. Each return is part of the training, not a failure. The monks felt relieved, like someone taking off a tight collar. They could stop judging every stray thought. If your nights are full of mental wandering, you know that tired frustration. You try to rest, and the mind runs to money, work, family, old mistakes. But you can guide it back without scolding it, like walking a dog slowly back to the porch. The return is the practice, not the wandering. Choose one anchor in your body, the weight of your legs, or the touch of the blanket. When your mind wanders, whisper, back, and return kindly, 10 times if needed. Then let yourself be proud of returning. Not perfect. Story 62. The Buddha was sitting quietly when a man came, full of worry about the future. He wanted certainty, like a contract that guarantees nothing will go wrong. The Buddha pointed to the simple truth that the future can't be held. He guided the man to focus on what can be done now. A clean intention, a fair action, a calm mind. Not because plans are useless, but because obsession burns you out. The man's shoulders softened as he realized he'd been living in tomorrow's storms. If you've been lying awake, forecasting disasters, you understand. The mind calls it preparing, but it often feels like torture. The Buddha's guidance was to return to what's right in front of you, one breath, one honest word, one kind choice. The rest can wait, like closing the laptop at the end of the day. Even if the work is endless, you can't control tomorrow, but you can choose how you meet today. Write one sentence: tomorrow's problems are not in my bed. Then feel your pillow, support your head, and let the sentence do its job. Let your mind come home to the room you're actually in. Story 63. One evening, the Buddha spoke to monks about the way feelings change. Some were discouraged because pleasant states didn't last. Others panicked when unpleasant states arrived. The Buddha pointed to a calm middle, noticing feelings as they come and go, like weather moving through a wide sky. He reminded them not to build identity from a passing mood. A rough day doesn't mean a ruined life. A good day doesn't need to be gripped like it might vanish. The monks listened, and their faces softened. They could stop riding every rise and fall. If you've been exhausted by mood swings, pressure, and emotional fatigue, this story understands. Your feelings are real, but they aren't permanent. You can let them pass without making them a verdict. A feeling is a visitor, not a boss. Name what you feel in one word: tired, sad, tense, or restless. Then add, "This can change," and feel your breath move without forcing it. Let the visitor sit quietly while you rest. Story 64. The Buddha was in a bamboo grove when a monk confessed impatience. He said he wanted quick progress, quick peace, quick proof he was doing it right. The Buddha responded with the calm of someone who knows seasons. He compared training to steady growth, like a plant that doesn't sprout by being yelled at. You water it, you protect it, and you wait with care. Impatience doesn't speed it up. It just makes you miserable. The monk smiled, a little embarrassed, and his tight effort loosened. If you've been pushing yourself hard, expecting instant results, this story sits with you. At work, there's always a deadline, but the heart isn't a spreadsheet you can force into shape overnight. Gentle effort works better than pressure, like learning to sleep again by not wrestling the bed. What grows well grows steadily, not violently. Place a hand on your chest and whisper, "Slow is okay." Then whisper, "Steady is enough," and feel your shoulders drop. Let patience be your blanket tonight. Story 65. The Buddha was walking with monks when one asked about forgiveness. He had been hurt by someone, and he kept replaying it like a bitter taste. He couldn't sleep well because anger felt like unfinished business. The Buddha guided him to see how resentment is carried inside. It's like holding a hot coal, hoping the other person gets burned, but your own hand is the one in pain. Forgiveness wasn't described as pretending nothing happened. It was described as choosing not to keep burning yourself. The monk's face softened, because he could feel the truth of it. If you're holding a grudge tonight, big or small, this story understands. Sometimes anger is really exhaustion, asking for relief. You can set down the coal, even if the memory remains. Forgiveness is for your own peace as much as anyone else's. Imagine placing the hot coal on the ground. Whisper, "I don't have to carry this tonight." Then relax your hands and let your fingers uncurl slowly. Story 66. A man came to the Buddha feeling ashamed about his past. He said, "I did things I regret, and now my mind won't let me rest." The Buddha didn't deny consequences, and he didn't crush the man with blame. He guided him toward confession, restraint, and making amends where possible. Then he pointed him toward starting fresh with better actions now, like cleaning a spill, instead of sitting in it all night. The man's posture changed as he realized there was a path forward. Not instant innocence, but honest repair. If you've been stuck in regret, replaying what you said, what you didn't do, what you wish you could edit, this story is for you. The past can teach you, but it doesn't have to own you. A new day can be shaped by new choices. Regret can become wisdom when it leads to repair, not self-hate. Write one sentence. Tomorrow I will make one small repair. Make it realistic. A kind message. A truthful admission. A helpful action. Then close your eyes and let tomorrow wait in its own room. Story 67. The Buddha once spoke about how we react to insults and praise. He described how people throw words like stones, sometimes without thinking. If you chase praise, you become hungry. If you fear blame, you become trapped. He guided a householder to stay steady, like a strong post in the ground. Wind can blow, but the post doesn't travel with it. The householder felt calmer because he saw a way out of social exhaustion. If you've been drained by office politics, family criticism, or the need to please everyone, this story understands. You can listen, you can learn, but you don't have to be owned by opinions. Your worth doesn't need a vote every day, like turning down background noise so you can hear your own life. Let praise and blame pass, and keep a steady heart. Picture words like leaves floating down a stream. One harsh word, one flattering word. Let them both drift by. Then feel the bed under you, solid and quiet. Story 68. On a warm day, the Buddha spoke to monks about right effort. Without strain, some were forcing themselves, grinding like gears without oil. Others were lazy, drifting and then feeling guilty. The Buddha guided them toward balance, like tuning a string. Too tight and it snaps, too loose and it won't play. But in the middle, there is music. The monks understood in their bodies, not just their heads. Effort can be steady, not harsh. Rest can be part of the path, not a failure. If you're burned out, this story sits beside you kindly. You can't run your life on panic forever. Balance is not a luxury. It's maintenance. The best effort is the kind you can keep doing tomorrow. Notice your shoulders and reduce their tension by just 10%. Then ask, what would a sustainable pace feel like? Let the answer be felt, not forced. As you drift. Story 69. The Buddha was asked by a householder how to deal with fear. Not big dramatic fear, just that background dread that follows you. Fear of money problems, fear of failing your family, fear of being found out at work. The Buddha pointed to simple supports: living ethically, being generous, keeping good company. He showed that fear shrinks when your life is aligned. When you're lying, cheating, or harming, fear grows, because the heart knows. But when you live cleanly, the mind sleeps more easily. The householder breathed out, because the solution was practical. If your anxiety is partly from living too stretched, too compromised, this story understands. You don't need perfection. You need a life you can respect. A clear conscience is a soft pillow. Name one small, honest choice you made today. then one you can make tomorrow. Let that honesty settle in you like a quiet light, and let the light go dim as sleep arrives. Story 70, near a river. The Buddha met a man angry at the world. The man's face was tight, his words quick and cutting. He said life wasn't fair, and he was tired of being the one who loses. The Buddha didn't argue him into submission. He guided him to notice what anger does to the body and mind, how it steals sleep, damages relationships, worsens decisions. He pointed toward patience and kindness as strength, not weakness, because anger feels powerful, but it often makes you smaller inside. The man's breath slowed, as if he finally noticed the cost. If you've been carrying anger like a shield, this story knows that weight. It keeps you braced all the time, but you deserve to rest. Even if the world is messy, your heart doesn't have to be. Anger promises protection, but patience gives true safety. Tighten your jaw for 1 second, then release it completely. As you release, whisper, I choose peace for my own body tonight. Let the river of your breath keep moving, calm and steady. Story 71. The Buddha was resting beneath trees, and the afternoon had a gentle hush. A monk came with a mind full of worry, saying, I can't stop planning and replaying. He felt like he was always behind, always chasing the next thing. The Buddha spoke about how the mind often lives in 2 places, past regret and future fear, and how that leaves the present moment empty, like a house with the lights on but no one home. He guided the monk to return to what is immediate and true. Walking is just walking. Eating is just eating. Breathing is just breathing. Not as a trick, but as a return to sanity. The monk's shoulders softened, as if he finally stopped running in his head. If you're in bed right now, still living in tomorrow's calendar, you know this strain. You can plan in the morning. Tonight is for being here. The present moment is the only place your life can actually happen. Feel 3 points of contact. Head on pillow, back on mattress, feet under the blanket. Let your attention rest there for 1 minute, and let tomorrow stay outside the door. Story 72. The Buddha was once asked why some people seem constantly dissatisfied. A householder said, even when I get what I want more. He sounded tired, like someone who keeps checking their bank app and still can't relax. The Buddha spoke about craving as a fire that grows when fed. It promises comfort, but it keeps the heart hungry. He pointed towards simple joy that isn't purchased by wanting. Generosity, gratitude, contentment, friendship, quiet, living. The householder's face eased, because he saw he wasn't broken. He was just feeding the wrong fire. If you feel restless tonight, even after a full day, this story understands. Sometimes restlessness is the mind demanding more when what you need is enough. You can let the fire cool by not adding fuel. Wanting is loud, but enough is peaceful. Name 1 thing you have right now that supports you. A bed, a roof, clean water, a blanket. Whisper, enough for tonight, and feel your chest loosen a little. Story 73. At Jetavana, a monk came to the Buddha with a painful habit. He kept criticizing others, then feeling guilty afterward. His mind was sharp toward others, and even sharper toward himself. The Buddha guided him to watch his speech like guarding a doorway. Before speaking, notice, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it kind? Is it timely? Not to become stiff, but to prevent unnecessary harm. The monk realized how much his mouth was driven by tension, like steam escaping a pot, but burning everyone nearby. He practiced pausing, and his mind became quieter. If you've been snapping more than you want to, in a relationship or with your kids, this story sits beside you gently. Stress makes the tongue fast, but a pause can save a whole evening. A small pause before words is a big gift after. Tonight, place your tongue softly on the roof of your mouth and relax your jaw. Promise yourself one thing tomorrow: I will pause once before I speak. Let that single pause become a calmer home. Story 74. A group of monks were sitting with the Buddha when talk turned to fear of dying. One said he felt anxious, like life could end before he fixed everything. The Buddha spoke about mindfulness of death, not as doom, but as clarity. Remembering death helps you stop wasting your life on petty things. It helps you forgive sooner. It helps you act with care. It helps you stop postponing kindness. The monks grew quiet, and their faces became tender, not grim. Because the teaching wasn't be scared, it was be awake. And be kind. If you're lying in bed worrying you haven't done enough, this story understands. You don't have to solve your whole life tonight, but you can choose one gentle, honest step tomorrow. Remembering life is short can make your heart softer, not harder. Whisper, time is precious. Then whisper, so I choose kindness. Let your shoulders drop, and let sleep be part of choosing wisely. Story 75. One day, a monk came to the Buddha feeling haunted by desire. He said images and fantasies kept pulling at him, like sticky hands. It left him tired and embarrassed. The Buddha guided him to see desire as a passing wave, not a command. He encouraged wise attention, not feeding the fantasy with extra stories, and he pointed to the body's changing nature. So desire doesn't look so magical. The monk felt relief, because the teaching was practical, not condemning. He could notice the wave and let it crest and fall. If you're struggling with impulses, food, spending, scrolling, old patterns, this story understands. The mind grabs for relief when it's worn out, but grabbing often creates more hunger. You can rest by not feeding the wave. An urge is strong, but it is not permanent. When an urge appears, place a hand on your belly and label it urge. Then feel the bed under you for 10 breaths, letting the urge rise and fade without acting. Let your body learn. I can wait. Story 76. The Buddha was once approached by a man who said, I feel lonely, even around people. His life was full of contacts, but not much warmth. He worried he was unlovable, or that something was wrong with him. The Buddha spoke about goodwill, the kind of friendliness that starts inside. When you hold yourself with steady kindness, you become easier to be with, and you begin noticing others with more care, not just using them to fill a hole. The man's face softened, because loneliness wasn't treated as a defect. It was treated as a human need for connection and kindness. If you feel alone at night, even with family nearby, this story sits with you gently. You can start with a friendly mind, then build outward. Small kindness creates real closeness over time. Connection grows where kindness is practiced, not where approval is chased. Place your hand on your chest and whisper, may I be at ease tonight. Then think of one person and whisper, May you be at ease too. Let that simple warmth fill the room like quiet lamplight. Story 77. A monk once came to the Buddha, confessing he felt jealous of others' progress. He thought, "They're calmer. They're better. They're ahead of me." The jealousy made him restless and ashamed. The Buddha guided him to see jealousy as a thief. It steals joy without giving any skill back. He encouraged the monk to rejoice in others' goodness, like being glad the world has light in it, and to return to his own practice. One step at a time, the monk felt relief, because he didn't have to compete. This wasn't a race with medals. If you're comparing yourself to co-workers, siblings, friends, neighbors, this story understands. Comparison keeps you awake, counting what you lack. But your life is shaped by your next choice, not their timeline. Let others' goodness inspire you, not poison you. Think of one person doing well, and say, "Good for them." Then say, "And I can take one step too." Feel your chest relax as jealousy loses fuel. Story 78 inches. A quiet teaching. The Buddha spoke about the mind that clings to pleasure. He described how pleasant feelings are sweet, but they don't stay. When we chase them, we suffer when they fade. And when we fear unpleasant feelings, we suffer before they even arrive. He pointed to a steadier way, enjoying what is pleasant without gripping, and meeting what is unpleasant without panic. The monks listened, and the room felt calmer, like a fan slowing down. They realized the chase itself was exhausting. If you've been chasing comfort every evening, snacks, shows, scrolling, shopping, this story understands. Comfort isn't the enemy. Clinging is what keeps you restless. A soft hand holds better than a tight fist. Enjoy without gripping, and you'll hurt less when things change. Notice one pleasant thing right now. The pillow, the warmth, the quiet. Enjoy it for a few breaths. Then whisper, "I can let this be simple." Let simplicity carry you towards sleep. Story 79. A monk came to the Buddha saying he felt proud of his practice. He liked being seen as disciplined and wise, but that pride made him tense, always guarding his image. The Buddha guided him to notice how pride is another chain, a golden chain, maybe, but still a chain. He encouraged humility, not self-hate, just honesty about being human. The monk felt a surprising relief, like taking off armor at night. He didn't have to keep proving himself. If you've been trying to be the responsible one all the time, the strong one, the together one, this story understands. That role can become a prison. Humility lets you breathe. When you stop performing goodness, goodness becomes natural. Whisper, "I don't have to impress anyone tonight." Let your face soften. Let your hands open, and feel the bed carry you without expectations. Rest as a human, not a resume. Story 80. A householder asked the Buddha how to live with less regret. He said he worked hard, but still felt empty at night. He worried life was slipping by in errands and obligations. The Buddha guided him towards simple principles: generosity, truthfulness, restraint, and wise companionship, not as a sermon, but as a practical way to sleep with a cleaner heart. When your choices line up with your values, the mind rests easier. The man's breath slowed, because the answer was doable. He didn't need a perfect life. He needed a steadier direction. If you feel decision fatigue, like you're drowning in tasks, this story sits with you gently. A single kind choice can tilt a whole day. A single honest choice can end a whole inner argument. Peace at night is built by small, clean choices in the day. Think of tomorrow morning. Choose one small act of goodness you will do first. A kind text. An honest email. A patient tone. Picture it once. Then let the picture fade. Let sleep come as your reset. We're near the end now. Not the end in a hard way. More like the way a candle settles down. When the room has finally gone quiet. And there's nothing left to do but glow a little longer. And then rest. If you can still hear me, you've already done enough. You've listened. You've softened. You've made a small, brave choice to come home to yourself. For this 1 hour, in a world that rarely stops asking for more. And maybe you can feel it, even faintly, that gentle lesson running underneath everything tonight. Not a rule, not a demand, just a feeling that you don't have to grip life so tightly to be safe, that you can loosen and still be held, like a hand opening underwater, like a knot slowly untying on its own, like a tired wave giving itself back to the ocean. Let the images we carried tonight return for a moment, and then drift away, a river moving in the dark. Steady and patient, an ocean that doesn't hurry, moonlight laying quietly across a sleeping world, a wide sky that never needs to chase the clouds, a small candle in a peaceful room, doing its simple work, and your breath, always your breath, like a gentle tide, arriving, leaving, arriving again. Nothing to prove, nothing to fix. If thoughts are still visiting, that's okay. Let them pass like thin clouds. You don't have to follow them. You don't have to finish them. You don't have to solve them. It's late now, and the mind can set down its tools. You can let the inbox close. You can let the calendar blur. You can let the unfinished conversations go quiet, like a door that closes softly, without a slam. Feel your face. Let the muscles around your eyes melt a little more. Let your jaw hang loose, as if you're finally done holding the day between your teeth. Let your shoulders sink, heavy and safe. Let your hands rest in whatever shape they choose. A shape that says, I'm not grabbing anything anymore. Let your belly be gentle. Let your legs be long and still. Let your whole body become a shoreline. And let the waves of the day recede. If you notice any last tight places, you don't have to wrestle them. Just notice them the way you notice moonlight on the floor. Quiet, unbothered, a small awareness that doesn't push. And each time you notice, something loosens, a little, then a little more. Sometimes the heart holds on because it loves. It holds on because it wants to protect. It holds on because it thinks, if I keep thinking, I will keep everyone safe. But tonight, you can let love be softer. You can let caring be quiet. You can let protection look like rest, like choosing not to punish your own nervous system, like choosing to be kind to the body that carried you all day, like choosing to stop trying to control the river with your hands. The river knows where to go. The ocean knows how to hold it. The sky knows how to be wide. And you know how to rest. Even if you forgot for a while, even if you've been tired for a long time, even if your life feels full of pressure and responsibility, right now, you can be simple again. A person in a bed, breathing, held by gravity, held by the quiet, held by the ordinary miracle of this moment, happening without your effort. If your mind reaches for one last thought, let it be a gentle one, not a promise, not a goal, just a small permission. It's okay. It's okay if you didn't do everything today. It's okay if you tried your best and still feel tired. It's okay if you're still learning how to be patient, how to forgive, how to let go. Nobody has to be perfect to sleep. Nobody has to earn rest. Rest is part of being human, and you're allowed to be human. Feel the room around you, even if you can't see it. You can sense it. The corners, the ceiling, the space that holds you. It's like being under a wide night sky. Even indoors, a calm, quiet universe, simply existing. Nothing is asking you a question. Nothing needs an answer. There is only the soft rhythm of your breath and the steady support beneath you. Let the breath come and go the way it wants, like a tide, like wind through grass, like a sigh the body has been waiting to make. And if sleep is already pulling you under, you don't have to fight it. You don't have to listen closely. You don't have to hold the thread of these words. You can let them fade, like candlelight dimming, like moonlight sliding behind a cloud, like the last ripple on a pond returning to stillness. Before we end, just feel this. For a few quiet moments, you are here. You are safe enough. You are not alone in your tiredness. Across this same night, in other rooms, under other roofs, people are also setting down their days, also loosening their hands, also letting their minds go quiet. We're all under the same sky, all breathing the same kind of air, all learning, in our own way, how to stop gripping and start resting. Let that sense of togetherness be soft, not crowded, just comforting, like knowing there's a lighthouse somewhere, even if you can't see it, like knowing the ocean holds every wave, without struggle. Now let everything become very simple. The river, the ocean, the candle, the moonlight, the sky, the breath, and you, one quiet part of the whole. Nothing separate, nothing missing, just this. And now, rest.